Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Stock Market Today for Wednesday, April 9th. And the markets were in go mode today as we got a little bit of tariff relief, a 90-day pause for most countries beyond a 10% across the board, except for China. The trade war is ramping up there, but the market's breathing a sigh of relief for now. And here with me to discuss today's market action and some stocks to watch is my colleague, Ken Shreve. Ken, we've got a lot to talk about today.
Yeah, big day, explosive percentage gains for the major stock indexes. You gave sort of the Cliff Notes version on the tariff news today. Not much has changed with China. Still a lot of apprehension there and big increase to China's tariff, but we'll talk about that in a second. Take a look at some big movers in the market surge growth 250 today. I want to start with Palantir, PLTR. Lots of enterprise software names under pressure here, but Palantir is still showing a lot of relative strength. Also, Lifetime Group. This is a wellness fitness company. And then Axon Enterprise, the maker of these body cameras, stun guns. They are back in the IBD 50 top 10.
Okay, well, we'll check out those charts. But first, let's take a closer look at the action in the major indexes in the stock market today. The NASDAQ up a whopping 12.2%, definitely making up a lot of ground that was lost over the destruction over the last handful of trading days. Meanwhile, the S&P 500 up 9.5% in today's session, also making up quite a bit of ground here, Ken. The Dow up 7.8% on the day, and the Russell 2000 up over 9%. So these are massive percentage gains that we saw. Of course, putting things into context, a lot of the major indexes, off some 10, 15%, at least intraday, and just a 3-day swing up until earlier this week. But a massive sigh of relief, I would say, at least for now. It's not like we have new trade deals in place, but we do have this 90-day pause, a welcome relief.
Yeah, and listen, from my perspective, I thought the market's a big concern was with U.S. relations with China, and there was really no give back to China today with
Yeah.
this tariff news. In fact, President Trump increased the total tariff to 125%, and I think the quote was that. Because of China disrespected the world's markets by retaliating
Retaliating.
with that 84% tariff. So things not good in terms of the U.S.-China relationship. But you mentioned he did pause tariffs for dozens of other countries that have not retaliated. They paused for 90 days, and the other headlines, just as it could be a universal tariff now, 10% on all countries' goods. But again, China is excluded from this. So I think the market uh, cheered the fact that there is likely some negotiating room here, and maybe even negotiating room with China. We'll see how that plays out, but definitely breathed a sigh of relief. But Ali, we've been talking about the fact we're still in the early stages of a rally attempt, and there's a reason why we look for follow through days, 4 days or later into a rally attempt, because we want to make sure the short covering has run its course, and you tend to see that. Throughout market history, when the market tries to bottom and come off lows, you invariably get people covering shorts. And 3 days into the rally attempt, you probably had a little more short covering today. So the market's action tomorrow,
Yeah.
uh,
Gonna be
Friday,
important.
next week is going to be even more important than today. For the leaderboard model portfolio, we stuck to our guns. We try to follow a rules based system here, and we generally do. And our system right now says that you don't want to pay attention to the first few days of a rally attempt. You want to look at day 4 or later. So that's what we plan to do. And if this rally is to be believed, we should have no problems whatsoever finding money to put to work. And that process can take several days. So there's time here, but we're just careful not to
Mhm.
jump the gun too quickly today.
Couldn't agree more, Ken. So today, I would say a positive step in the right direction. feels like an understatement when you have the Nasdaq up over 12% in a day, but that doesn't mean that we're out of the woods in terms of the volatility. We could be, like you said, I think Thursday and Friday are going to be great clues. And we'll see if adding exposure is the way to go there. And then, even then, doesn't mean we're out of the woods. Incrementally in, if more headlines come out, say the trade war with China ratchets up even more, there is that concern. But on the other hand, maybe we could see some sort of rapid V-shaped recovery, but we'll have to take things day by day.
Yeah, it's entirely possible. We could continue to move higher from here, and the Nasdaq, is gonna could make a run towards that 18,000 level. You see those moving averages just above 18,000. That could be resistance levels here. So, we'll take today for what it was. I mean, a lot of people were thinking, oh boy, Nasdaq up 6-7% at the drop of a hat. What's the close going to look like? Is it going to give it all back like it's been doing?
Mhm.
Today it held pretty well. So the bulls are feeling good about that, but they also realize that we're still early in the rally attempt here, and we'll see what the market gives us tomorrow.
Absolutely. Okay. And then when it comes to the other major indexes, similar improvements here. What levels are you looking at for the S&P?
Well, I mean, the 5,500 level and that short-term moving average right there, that is, won't take much for the S&P to break out above that level. And if it does, then you could run pretty easily up to that 200-day moving average. So possible we could see some follow through.
Mhm.
Tomorrow in the indexes. Again, we'll look for volume behind the moves. Got some good volume today behind the buy. You can see it well above average on the NYSE and nicely above the volume that we saw Tuesday. So no doubt a bullish session. A lot of big percentage gainers out there. But when you're looking at the growth screens and where is the leadership right now, still kind of fuzzy because you have stocks that even though they were up 10, 12, 15% today, they're still on technical downtrends because the selling has been so
Mhm.
severe. So we're going to be, very, very picky with our new buys here, and wait for the setups. We're close,
Mhm.
but again, just need to reiterate, we don't want to jump the gun here.
Right. The Dow back above 40,000 and then some. Seems like one level to watch to the upside would be 42,000. That roughly coincides with the 200-day line there for the Dow. Of course, there are other levels before we even get to that hurdle that we'd like to see, but blue chips also in repair mode here, Ken.
I'm sorry, I missed that, Allie.
That's okay. Blue chips
Yeah.
are also in repair mode. Small caps still quite damaged here, but again, we're taking the lead from primarily the Nasdaq, the S&P 500, and the leading stocks underneath the surface. But before we take a look at some of those potential leading stocks, let's check out what we are seeing with the 10-year yields here, Ken.
Yeah, just an incredible 3-day move that we talked about a lot on IBD Live this morning, but just relentless selling in the bond market. A lot of people saying that nations around the country that hold our bonds are worried about the prospects for a recession and a slowdown for the economy. So they've been selling bonds. It's normally a safe haven trade when you're looking for yield in a softening economy. But there've been rumors that China, Japan, maybe some other countries have been selling some of their bond holdings, and that's what's caused this upward pressure on yields. But typically when you're in a market correction, even a strong day like today, notwithstanding, you have rates rising, money becoming more expensive. Rising yields and a healthy stock market don't normally go hand in hand. So today was a bit of a um, not a surprise. I mean, the market got some bend from President Trump on the tariffs and responded accordingly. But we'll continue to keep an eye on this on the what has been just relentless selling in the bond market for the past
Yeah.
3 sessions, and maybe we'll have some give back soon on this 10-year yield.
We'll have to see. Okay, well, we mentioned the trade war with China ratcheting up, but we did get a little bit of relief in the China ETFs that we track, including FXI, the iShares China ETF, up 7% today. If you put that in perspective on a weekly basis, still down about 3.3% for the week on its fourth week of declines here as we sit here now, but some support at an interesting level, Ken. And interesting to see this up today, given the continued flaring tensions between the US and China on trade.
Yeah, I saw AT&T, a Chinese hotel operator that had been performing well under a lot of pressure today. So back to FXI, and you had weakness in some China stocks, but because Alibaba and Tencent, TCEHY, are top holdings in this ETF, both of these stocks, like FXI, are firming up right at their 200-day moving averages. So probably too early to declare a bottom here, but it's finding support where it should. But I got to tell you, China is difficult to trade even without the tariff headlines.
Yeah.
So we keep an eye on these on FXI because, like I said, it did
Mhm.
bounce from quite oversold conditions. A lot of things were oversold headed into today. So found support at the 200-day moving average. And again, Alibaba is probably your best name in China, although it looks a lot like FXI here, just
Mhm.
testing a long-term support level.
Right, really indicative of sort of the personality that we've seen as of late of stocks out of China, where you can get these incredible rips higher, but look out below on the downside because what a roller coaster ride. So it seems like a lot of volatility and a lot of risk. So buyer beware, but also these are vehicles for sure for active traders versus just something that you would buy and hold because Alibaba intraday today, traded back at levels it was at last September. So, you're in for a wild ride with some of these China names, Ken.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. But we again like to follow the action in China, especially in light of all the tariff headlines that are going on,
Right.
and hopefully there'll be some sort of agreement between the U.S. and China. That's why I was a little surprised at the scope of the gains today because nothing really changed much with China at all. In fact, their tariffs got even
Changed for the
uh,
worse. Yeah.
yeah, got even more
Tensions
expensive. So,
even
but just a
more.
relief that hey, if Trump is open to negotiating with some smaller countries, maybe something will happen with
Yeah,
China as well.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be interesting to see how this all ultimately plays out. But let's take a look at some individual names underneath the surface. We know Palantir, uh, a volatile, hot stock, and this is another case where when it moves, it can really get going and outperform. Can shares up? Get this, 19% on the day. That's quite a move.
Yeah, trying to break out of a downtrend. I mentioned all these explosive moves, and technically Palantir is still in a downtrend here. Not by much, but if it's going to maybe try to break out over that high of 98.17. So definitely a name worth watching. We've talked about this on IBD Live. You had a good shakeout earlier in the week where that low of 74.57 was undercut. Now the pullback from 125.41 down to down to Monday's low. That was a 47% pullback from peak to trough, and that's a little steep. But remember, growth stocks are going to correct usually at least twice what the broad market does. And with the Nasdaq, recently falling more than 20% off its high, maybe Palantir's correction isn't too bad. But still, a 47% pullback on the left side makes the pattern flawed a little bit. But you did have that good shakeout this week, and if we get a follow through day, I think this is a name to watch because among enterprise software firms, they are probably still the best positioned for growth, despite a lofty PE ratio.
Okay. Yeah, I this is absolutely on my list. Traded this in the past. A profitable trade there. But back on my list because, wouldn't be surprised if it takes out that 98.17 buy point in a quick clip if this market recovery continues to zoom higher here. But one could also imagine a little bit of a digestion at this point. As you mentioned, it's come up a lot over the last three trading days from that intraday low a couple of days ago. So we'll have to see. But the story is here, and this is definitely one that can outperform when it gets going.
Yeah, and the group still ranks pretty high. 42 out of 197. There's been a lot of destruction in this group from names like ServiceNow. NOW has just been annihilated. But and so the stocks that you want to look at in a new uptrend are not the laggards in a group. The stocks that are actually performing. The best with top fundamentals. So Palantir, close to breaking out of a downtrend here. So definitely one to watch.
Yes. Okay, moving on, let's go to LTH. This is Lifetime Group Holdings in the Leisure Services Group, which operates fitness centers. And it was up almost 11% on the day, Ken, getting back above the 50-day line. This is another one that, as the market destruction continued over the last handful of trading days, was one that we were noting was showing that relative strength as it was forming a potential double bottom pattern. So this is watch list worthy indeed.
Yeah, this is a really interesting company. They operate fitness spa centers in kind of urban locations in a resort type uh, you know
Luxury kind of
luxury,
atmosphere.
atmosphere. So they're really growing well, and you can see revenue growth accelerated in Q4. And another stock that, like Palantir, had a good shakeout Monday. You had that low of 27.26 that got undercut. Uh, and it's rising above its 50-day moving average. Not many stocks were doing that today, so this one's back near highs. And the thing with Palantir and Lifetime is at least you have companies that are still bona fide growth stories. Palantir obviously growing faster than Lifetime at this point, but Lifetime is still uh, still has good bottom line and top line growth, and they offer a pretty darn good service. So this is another name that is worth watching here. Not a stock that's on a late stage run
Mhm.
here. Just broke out of an early stage base and is setting up again.
Yeah, and Ken, you also mentioned Axon. This one's back on the IBD 50 list, finding support at a long-term level.
Yeah, no, there's a couple of things about Axon here. Is again fundamentals and the new going on here. Again, they're known for their body cameras and their taser guns, but they also have turned into a cloud software firm, and they work closely with police departments, evidence gathering, and the like. So they've got some additional revenue streams here outside of their body cameras and taser guns. So uh, I don't like this setup as much as I do Lifetime and
Mhm.
Palantir, only because when Axon hit that high of 715.99, there was really a sharp break below the 50-day moving average, and then the company reported earnings and gapped up closer to that 600 level, but it's still just kind of on a downtrend here. However, it is making a bid to break out of a downtrend. We'll see if it can, pop above that recent high of 579 and try to make a run past 600. So, still think the fundamentals are
Mhm.
intact at Axon. It's a very well managed company, and bit wide and loose price action on the weekly chart, but still a name I think that could work here.
Okay. Well, Ken, just to circle back to where we are at with the market, a big step in the right direction today, but a little bit more evidence would be great. After a big day of strength, your expectation is to see more strength, making Thursday's trading day very key. Are we going to have a strong open and fade, like you said, we've seen in recent days? Or are we going to have a strong finish. So we'll have to see what happens.
Yeah, I think just can't just
Understate.
yeah it should be stated again that this importance of follow through day and why you don't pay attention to the first few days of a rally attempt is an important one because we know there's a lot of short covering in the early stages of a rally. But what happens when the short covering runs its course? Are there going to be institutions ready to step in and buy new growth stocks, and are they willing to commit new capital to the market? That we don't know yet. So I think the market's reaction again tomorrow, Friday, early next week, we should have a pretty good idea of which of whether we're going to get a tradable rally, or if the rally is just not going to have any staying power.
Mhm.
So as always, we'll just kind of watch the market action in coming days, and look for more signs of accumulation that we saw today. But just one day of strength isn't
Right.
going to get us you know move us all back in from the
Mhm.
sidelines here.
And I will also just quickly address, for those who are trying to call a bottom here and saying that, today proves why dip buying works, or, looking at an oversold indicator and blood on the street and pointing to see, ha, told you we should have been going all in ahead of today. Well, I would say that hindsight and luck are not solid long-term strategies. We love playing the odds, we love studying market history, so that's exactly why we're taking the approach that we're taking, looking for a follow-through day in addition to making those incremental portfolio decisions. So I love active investing, and that's why I think it was great how we were able to reduce exposure starting back in February off of the highs, being able to sidestep a lot of this destruction and now being ready for a market that is showing improvement.
Following a rules-based system is really helpful. A lot of people have a hard time doing it because they let their emotions get too involved, and they try to catch falling knives, or they try to pick stock market bottoms. But when you've got a specific set of buy rules for individual stocks, and a specific set of sell rules for individual stocks, and a specific set of rules for gauging market health. I mean, it just
Right.
makes things much easier. It takes the emotion
Mhm.
out of it, and believe me, my colleague Dave and I, we were thinking about adding things to leaderboard today, but just chose to exercise discipline based on
Mhm.
decades of market research, and we know what to look for. We haven't seen it yet,
Right.
and we'll just kind of proceed with our
Yeah.
rules.
Well said. Now's not the time to have FOMO, is what I would say. It again, trades can work out here, but we'll have to see what tomorrow brings, because we also know that when you do get these big volatile swings, take COVID for example. I mean, how many huge up days did we see when we continued to chop lower? Different circumstances, of course, different set of factors at play here in this current market, but we'll be flexible both ways.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And we've just seen so much excessive volatility in recent days, and we saw more of it today to the upside. So
Mhm.
again, can't stress it enough. I think the market's behavior over the next 3 to 5 days is going to be pretty important. Now, if we see we don't see any follow through tomorrow. We get a higher volume decline. Well, we know that this market is still not right. But if we see more accumulation, another big gain, and higher volume, then we're like, okay, well, maybe we've got a little tradable rally on our hands, and we're not going to rush in to buy stuff. We'll use our rules, and just look for the best merchandise.
Great stuff, Ken. Well, we'll leave it there for now. But if you want more, make sure to tune into our weekly Investing with IABD podcast that's happening today live at 5 p.m. Eastern on this YouTube channel, as well as wherever you listen to your podcasts for the audio version later today. That'll be dropping. And We will also put the replay at investors.com/videos. Now, coming up tomorrow, of course, we'll give you a little rundown. Of course, we've got IBD Live in the morning, starting 10 minutes before the opening bell. You can check that out at investors.com/IBD Live. Then Ken and I will see you back tomorrow after the close. Then Ken's got a quick turn because at 4:30 Eastern, Ken and the leaderboard team have our quarterly leaderboard scorecard webinar. So we have that to look forward to for leaderboard members coming up tomorrow. So lots of fun in store as the week continues. So we will see you then, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in.